The moment my ex turned to the judge and said, "He's dangerous. He twists our daughter's mind, and I fear for her safety," I felt something in my chest split clean open. She said it with the same calm confidence she used when ordering lattes from Starbucks, like it wasn't a lie, like she actually believed it. And for a moment, I swear the judge did too. I sat there silent, hands gripping the cold wood of the courtroom bench, trying to breathe, trying not to cry. I wasn't supposed to cry. Men who cry don't win custody battles. I knew that much. My lawyer leaned toward me, whispering something legal, something useless. I couldn't hear it over the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. My daughter Emma sat behind me next to my sister. She was only 7 years old, but she sat still as stone, her small hand resting on her backpack, her brown curls tied up the way she liked. Because I did her hair that morning, the way she asked me to. I could see her reflection in the polished surface of the courtroom table. Her eyes were wide, locked on me, her dad. The man everyone was now pretending might be a monster, all because her mother had spun a story so neat, so believable, I could barely recognize it as false. Jessica wore black that day, dramatic like she was attending a funeral. She always had a flair for theater. Back when we were together, it made her magnetic. Now it made her terrifying. She described me like I was some unstable rogue who couldn't be trusted with a goldfish, let alone a child. She said I lied to Emma, told her terrible things about her mother, confused her, scared her, and the judge, she just nodded, like she'd heard this all before, like she was already convinced. I wanted to scream. I wanted to explain how I stayed up all night when Emma had the flu, how I took off work for her dentist appointments, how I learned to braid her hair from YouTube tutorials just to see her smile. But none of that mattered, because Jessica was composed, articulate. She worked in PR. She could sell fire to a forest, and she was selling the judge a perfect lie. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Hayes, do you have anything to say?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out, not words, just air, a shaky breath. My lawyer cleared his throat, buying me time. But I had no time. My world was shrinking every second, and I was drowning. Then a voice rang out, soft but clear. "Your Honor, I have a video from Mommy's phone. I think you should see it." The room froze. The bailiff blinked, confused. Jessica went pale. The judge slowly turned her head. Emma was standing, holding her school tablet in both hands. It was pink and covered in stickers. She hadn't said a word all morning. Now her voice cut through the silence like a knife. Everyone was watching her, and she didn't flinch. She looked braver than I'd ever seen her. She stepped forward, slow, steady, and handed the tablet to the judge. The judge looked down at it, raised her eyebrows. "What is this?" she asked. Emma's voice didn't shake. "I recorded it last weekend. Mommy was yelling a lot, and I thought maybe if someone heard it, they'd understand." Something changed in that moment. Something real. Even Jessica, who always had something to say, said nothing. The judge tapped the screen and pressed play. For a second, there was only silence. Then, the room filled with the sound of Jessica's voice. Screaming. Not just yelling. Screaming. "You think your dad loves you more than me, huh? Go ahead, keep thinking that and see what happens. No one will believe you, because you're just a kid." The sound of something slamming. A door? A hand on the counter? Then Emma's small voice shaky saying, "I'm sorry." And Jessica replying, "You're not sorry. You're stupid. You think he's going to save you? He's pathetic. And if you tell anyone, I'll make sure you regret it." I swear to God, the judge hit pause. The courtroom was dead silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Jessica looked like she'd been punched in the gut. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering fast words I couldn't hear. But the judge raised one finger and they stopped immediately. "Where did you get this?" the judge asked. Emma stood straight. She left her phone on the couch. I was scared. I heard her yelling again, and I thought, if someone saw it, maybe they'd believe Daddy. The judge nodded slowly, then turned to me. "Mr. Hayes, do you have anything else to add?" This time, my voice came back. "No, Your Honor," I said softly. "I think my daughter said it all." The judge turned to the bailiff. Bring me that phone. We'll have it submitted officially. And please escort Ms. Carlyle out of the courtroom until I've reviewed this in full. Jessica stood up, her voice suddenly shrill. That's my phone. That's private. That's illegal, Your Honor. But the judge stared her down. This is a custody case, Ms. Carlyle. The safety of the child is paramount. Now please take a seat outside or I'll have you removed. Jessica's lawyer tugged her sleeve. They stepped out together. The heavy courtroom door shut behind them, and the air shifted, like someone had opened a window. I looked back at Emma. She was still standing, but I could see her shoulders trembling. The adrenaline was wearing off. I walked to her, dropped to my knees, and hugged her tight. I'm so proud of you, I whispered. You didn't have to do that. She pulled back and looked at me, her voice quiet. I didn't want to go back, Daddy. I didn't want to be scared anymore. I held her again, tighter than I ever had. And I knew then that whatever happened next, we had already won, because the truth was finally in the room. The judge called a short recess. I sat with Emma and my sister on the hard bench in the hallway. Emma drank from her water bottle. Her small hands still shook. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, but I knew this would stay with her. Maybe forever. Kids remember this kind of thing. Not just the yelling, but the feeling of not being believed, of being told their truth doesn't matter. But today, her truth did matter. It mattered more than anything. When court resumed, the judge looked different. Not angry, not even surprised. Just sad. Like she'd seen this before, too many times. She announced that there would be an emergency review of custody. And until then, full temporary custody would be granted to me, Mr. Hayes. Supervised visitation only for Ms. Carlyle, pending evaluation. She asked if I understood. I nodded, my voice tight with emotion. I do, Your Honor. Thank you. The judge rose. The courtroom slowly emptied. But Emma and I sat there another minute, her hand in mine, her eyes wide. She didn't say anything until we got into the car. And even then, all she said was, I'm glad someone listened. I turned to her and said, Me too, sweetheart. Me too. And if you're still here, thank you for listening. I know this wasn't an easy story, but I believe stories like this matter. If you believe that too, please like the video, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak the truth, no matter how hard they are to tell. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And sometimes, even the smallest truth can change everything. Before the video, before the courtroom and the polished lies, there was just me and Emma, and the pieces of a life I was desperately trying to hold together. After Jessica left, everything felt like it cracked in half. Not just the house or the silence or the weekends that stretched too long, but the rhythm of being a dad. I used to wake up to the sound of Emma laughing in the hallway. Now I woke up to emails from Jessica's lawyer, full of demands, corrections, accusations. She said I was too lenient, too chaotic, too emotional to parent right. But Emma never seemed afraid at my house. She ran through the living room in her mismatched socks, built pillow forts, named every stuffed animal after a Disney character. She once told me it was her favorite place in the world because it smelled like peanut butter and calm. I laughed, but I knew what she meant. My apartment wasn't perfect. The couch sagged, the fridge hummed too loud, and the neighbor's dog barked every night at 11. But it was safe. I was safe. I cooked spaghetti the way she liked it, with butter, not sauce. I read her 2 stories instead of 1. And I listened to her ramble about school and classmates and how the art teacher always smelled like lemons. She'd fall asleep with her cheek on my chest, and I'd think, I must be doing something right. Then Jessica started calling during our weekends, more and more each time, saying Emma needed to talk to her, asking questions, pretending it was casual, but always checking, always doubting. Once she said, I hope you're not telling her lies about me, and hung up before I could answer. I never told Emma anything bad about Jessica, only the truth. The kid version of the truth, like, Mommy loves you even when she's upset, or Mommy's trying her best too, even when it didn't feel like it. Jessica didn't return the favor. I found out from Emma one night during bedtime when she whispered, Daddy, Mommy said you only care about yourself. Is that true? My heart cracked. I asked where she heard that. She shrugged and pulled her blanket up to her chin. I just did. That's when I started keeping notes. Not because I wanted to fight dirty, but because I knew I'd need them someday. Every weird message, every voicemail, every time Emma came home quiet and skittish and different. I never wanted to take her away from her mom. I just wanted balance. I wanted safety. Then came the day Jessica filed for full custody. I wasn't surprised, not really. The paperwork was thick with accusations, emotional instability, manipulation. I remember sitting on the floor, reading it over and over, like maybe the words would change if I stared long enough. But they didn't. They said I was unpredictable, irrational, damaging. They made me sound like a stranger, and Emma like a prize Jessica didn't want to share. I thought about giving up, not because I believed what she said, but because I didn't think I could win. I didn't have the money, the reputation, the poise Jessica had. I was just a dad trying to survive, trying to keep his kid laughing, trying to hold on to the one thing that made sense. Then, one night, after a drop-off, Emma asked me if it was okay to feel scared around her mom. She said it in a whisper, like it was a secret that could get her in trouble. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to put words in her mouth or twist her thoughts. I just said, "It's always okay to tell the truth, even when it's hard." She nodded, but didn't say anything else. That night, she slept in my bed, curled up tight like something in her was folding inward. After that, she changed. Little things started showing up. Drawings of people crying, stick figures with lightning bolts above their heads. The teacher called me, said Emma had gotten into a fight with another girl over a pencil, but ended up crying in the hallway for an hour. When I asked her about it, she said, "I just felt full, like I was gonna pop." I didn't know how to help her. I asked Jessica if we could get Emma into therapy. She said no, said I was trying to pathologize normal behavior, said maybe I was the unstable one if I couldn't handle a 7-year-old being emotional. I didn't push, because I knew she'd just use it against me later. I didn't know Emma had already started helping herself. I didn't know she was planning anything. She never mentioned the video, never hinted at it, not once, until that moment in court, when she stood up and changed everything. I think about that a lot now. How she must have felt, how scared she must have been, and how much courage it took to go against the one adult who always told her to stay quiet. I didn't teach her that kind of strength. I don't know who did. Maybe she found it on her own, buried somewhere between the whispered apologies and the nights she held her own tears back so I wouldn't see them. What I do know is she saved us both. She stepped into that courtroom with her head high and her voice steady and without permission, without rehearsal, without fear. And if you're still listening to this story, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because real stories deserve to be heard, and the truth deserves a louder voice. And if you've ever been afraid to speak up, remember, Emma didn't wait for permission. She just stood up and said what needed to be said, and because of that, we're not afraid anymore. The next few days felt like learning how to breathe all over again. Emma was home with me full time now, and though the court order was temporary, the feeling of her presence, of her being safe, felt permanent in my chest. Like a weight had been lifted, but also replaced with something heavier: responsibility, protection, the knowledge that she had stood up in a courtroom when I couldn't and changed everything. We didn't talk much about the video. I didn't want to push her. She had said what she needed to say. That took more courage than most adults could summon. I just let her be a kid. Pancakes for dinner, cartoons in the morning, walks to the park, and silly voices during bedtime stories. It felt like we were both trying to recover from a war we hadn't chosen. I kept my phone close that week. My lawyer said the judge had escalated the case. Jessica's visitation would be determined by a child psychologist after a formal evaluation. I didn't celebrate. It wasn't over. This was family court. Nothing is ever really over. Then came the messages. First from Jessica, then from unknown numbers. You're ruining her life. You'll pay for this. Liar. She's my daughter. My lawyer told me not to respond. Document everything. Stay calm. That's what they always say. Stay calm. Like calm will keep a man from burning when someone tries to set his life on fire. I sat in the dark some nights, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, wondering if I should have kept quiet. Maybe just accepted limited custody, seen Emma every other weekend, stayed out of the storm. But then I'd look at her asleep on the couch, her arms wrapped around that old stuffed elephant, and I knew I would have walked through fire for her. And in some ways, I already had. The psychologist's evaluation came 2 weeks later. I wasn't allowed in the room. Emma had to sit through questions, memory games, emotional assessments. The therapist said she was bright. She had a strong attachment to me. She seemed anxious when discussing her mother. She used words like scary and mean. She hesitated when asked about being alone with her. Then she drew a picture. 3 people. Me, her, and Jessica. Except Jessica was drawn smaller, almost in the corner, and her face had sharp teeth. I didn't see the drawing myself, but my lawyer described it. The judge did too. The final hearing came sooner than expected. Jessica had brought in a new lawyer, flashier than the last one. Expensive suit, gold watch, smug tone. He tried to spin the video as taken out of context. He said it was a moment of frustration, not abuse. He said kids exaggerate, that I manipulated Emma, taught her what to say, tried to alienate her from her mother. The judge listened to everything, patient, neutral. Then, she asked a question that cracked everything open. Miss Carlyle, do you dispute the recording is of your voice? Jessica stuttered. Said she didn't remember. That maybe it had been altered. The judge raised an eyebrow. So you're not denying it's you? Jessica folded her arms. I don't know. It might be. Then came the therapist's report. Line by line, not dramatic, just facts. Emma showed signs of emotional stress linked to maternal interactions. She expressed fear. She used the word trapped. She felt safer with her father. The judge sat quietly as it was read. Then, she looked up and said, I'm ready to give my ruling. I held Emma's hand so tightly I thought I'd never let go. Jessica's lawyer sat back like he'd already won. Based on the evidence presented, including the audio recording, the child's testimony, and the psychological evaluation, I am granting full physical and legal custody to Mr. Hayes. Jessica inhaled like someone had hit her in the stomach. The room felt like it tilted. Supervised visitation will be permitted under court-approved arrangements. Any violation will result in immediate suspension of access. Jessica jumped up, yelling, This is insane. He brainwashed her. She's a child. She doesn't know what she's saying. The judge stood. That's enough, Ms. Carlyle. Your behavior in this courtroom reinforces everything we've heard. You're dismissed. Jessica stormed out. Her lawyer followed, his expensive shoes clicking uselessly against the floor. I stood there frozen. I didn't cry, not then, not in the courtroom. I just looked at Emma. She was smiling, small, software, but real. Outside, she asked, Does this mean I get to stay with you forever? I crouched down, hugged her, and said, Yeah, sweetheart. You're home now. That night, she fell asleep faster than I'd ever seen. No nightmares, no calls from her room, just peace. I stayed up, sat on the edge of the bed, just watching her breathe, thinking about how close we came to losing this, how people can say anything in court, anything, but sometimes truth finds a way to speak, even through a child's voice. If you're still watching, thank you. These stories aren't easy, but they're real. They happen every day to people you pass on the street, maybe even to you. So if you believe truth matters, please like the video, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. You never know whose life your click might change. We're not just telling stories here. We're speaking out loud for the ones who were silenced. We didn't go straight home after the hearing. Emma wanted pancakes, not just any pancakes, the kind from that little diner on 6th Street with the red booths and whipped cream shaped like smiley faces. She ordered two, ate one, took the other to go, said she wanted to save it just in case tomorrow's hard. I didn't argue, I just nodded. That's the thing about kids. They carry more than we see. That night, we watched her favorite movie on the couch. Blankets piled high, popcorn everywhere. At one point, she looked at me and said, "Does Mommy still hate me?" I paused the screen. My throat tightened. "Emma," I said carefully, "your mom doesn't hate you. She's just confused. Sometimes grown-ups don't know how to handle big feelings. And sometimes they say and do things that hurt people, even the ones they love. But that doesn't mean it's your fault." She didn't say anything, just leaned her head on my shoulder. That moment hit me harder than the courtroom ever did. The days after were quiet. No lawyers, no courtrooms, just mornings with cereal and cartoons, afternoons at the park, bedtime stories read too dramatically. I watched her slowly return to herself. Less flinching, less silence, more humming, more messy drawings on the fridge. She even drew the courtroom one day. Emma on one side, me beside her, the judge at the center, and Jessica, a stick figure outside the room, a single teardrop on her face. She handed it to me and said, "I don't think she's evil. I think she's just sad in a loud way." That wrecked me. Kids forgive so much, more than they should. A week later, the court sent the final documentation. Full custody. No overnight visits. Supervised contact only twice a month. That was it. The paper version of freedom. I kept it in the drawer under Emma's old baby photos. I didn't frame it, didn't post it. That kind of win doesn't feel like victory. It feels like survival. I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I needed to rebuild. There's a difference. I'd spent years being told I was unstable, manipulative, dangerous. It seeps in, no matter how hard you fight it. But now I get to heal. With Emma beside me. She asked once, "Will I ever have to go back?" I said, "Only if you want to." She nodded. That was enough. Jessica hasn't spoken to me since the ruling. Her supervised visits happen quietly through the center. Emma doesn't say much after them. I don't ask. I just hold her closer on those nights. Let her cry if she needs to. One evening, she pulled a folded piece of paper from her backpack and handed it to me. It was a list. At the top, she wrote, "Things I'm not scared of anymore." Underneath were 5 things. The dark, spiders, my voice, telling the truth, Mom yelling. I didn't know whether to smile or cry, so I did both. Now, every night before bed, we have a new tradition. We call it bravery check. She tells me one thing she did that day that made her feel strong. Sometimes it's little. I told a boy he was being mean. Sometimes it's big. I said no when someone made me uncomfortable. And every time, I tell her this: you are strong and smart and brave, and you never ever have to stay silent again. Because she didn't just change her life that day in court, she changed mine. She reminded me what it means to fight, not with fists or fury, but with truth, with stillness, with courage that doesn't need to shout. So if you're watching this and you're someone who's been made to feel small, someone who's been lied about, someone who's standing in front of a system that doesn't seem to care, hear this. You are not alone. The truth matters, even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet. If this story meant something to you, please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe. It helps more than you know, not just for me, but for the next parent who's sitting in silence, waiting to be believed. Thanks for being here. Stay strong, stay grounded, and never forget, one brave voice can change everything.